So when my spacecraft gets right around right here, I'm going to thrust normal plus. So I'm going to speed up time a little bit and allow that to happen. Once it lets me. There we go. Again, better to align it earlier than trying to have to do massive corrections at the last minute. I'll show you what I mean by that. Alright, so here we go. So I'm inclining my orbit upwards. And basically you got to just keep looking until you're just eyeballing it. The tools aren't in the game yet to do better than eyeballing it. A little more, it looks like to me. Right around there. Good enough. That's pretty close. We'll make last minute adjustments as we need it. Now I'm going to go in for a fairly unique landing because I'm trying to do a very precise landing. I already have 4 vehicles landed right here. I think 4. Yeah, I have 4 vehicles landed right here. I'm going to basically do a almost vertical descent. That allows me to control my placement even more accurately than any other way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my deceleration burn here. Now I'm not going to use MechJeb to land. I am going to land by stick and throttle. I am going to use kill rotation because that's, as I said, like hitting ASAS on and off. It gives me the ability to make sure that the nose points where I want it to unless I give it a command. But other than that, we're going to do this manually. Alright, so I'm going to basically now thrust in the retrograde direction to kill my velocity vector, and I'm going to bring the limb of this orbit into a ballistic trajectory, and I want it to end up right around here. Now, there's a reason for that. It looks like I'm going to overshoot, but when you decelerate, it tends to bring the limb in. There is also ways to bring the limb out, and I'm going to try to talk about it as I land. But basically, it's practice. This is going to be a more complicated landing than you probably need to try if you've never landed before. You should just try to land. You don't have to aim for a spot. But I'm going to show you it really can be done, and you don't really need tools beyond what the game gives you for this particular maneuver. You can actually land very precisely with what they have. My biggest complaint is I don't actually have a landing beacon until I'm about 2 kilometers off of my landing site. So you got to be pretty damn precise to get within 2 kilometers in the first place. For some reason I don't get those little red squares that you get in orbit on the surface, which is something drives me nuts. But anyway, there you go. So you can see the limb of that ballistic trajectory is now a little offset, but basically in line with where my landing base is. Alright, so let's now turn on kill rotation. From this point on, we're going to land like that, and I'm going to pre-tilt the spacecraft in the correct direction. I'm going to use my orbital stage. There's no atmosphere, so I'm going to keep using these Nerva engines for one more burn. Then I'm going to detach them and use my landing craft engines and my ascent engines for the rest of the burn. All right, so good enough. Let's speed up some time. So one other really nice thing here is I can see my altitude in MechJeb, which is a really useful tool for landing. And you're going to see I'm going to be calling out altitudes later. When I get to 40K, I'm going to do my first deceleration burn. That's overkill, but because I'm trying to do a very precise landing, it helps to do it. Some of these maneuvers is overkill early. You can do a lot of these things later and still be quite successful at it. People I notice in this game are gentle. There is a right time to be gentle. You want to do small corrections, small throttle changes when you're close to the surface. But you can come in a lot faster, a lot harder than people generally do in the game. People are a little conservative. So you can see my landing point is a little to the southeast. I'm going to correct for that now. I'm going to push north, so I'm going to rotate that around so that I'm more in line with where I want to be. And that's good enough for my first burn. So you can see I've decelerated myself quite a bit. Actually, I'm gonna go a little more. I'm gonna decelerate myself a little more. No reason to. Might as well use the fuel in this stage that I'm about to throw away, rather than not use it. Better safe than sorry and all that. I have This lander is so ridiculously overpowered. I have enough fuel to land practically, probably on Kerbin, even without an atmosphere. It would be close, but there's a lot of delta V in that lander. So, so I'm just showing you how to do it with a very overpowered lander. I like building it once and then using it everywhere. All right, so we're gonna kick this stage out. Ignite the next stage. There we go. Might as well drop my landing legs now too. I love watching that thing spin. Isn't that awesome? All right, and here we go. We're on our final descent. Our big trick now is to make sure that we stay on our target, that we land in the cluster. I want my Kerbins are lazy, my Kerbals, whatever the hell they're called, are lazy. They don't like walking, so I basically try to put all my infrastructure and my MoonBase within about a click of each other or better. I'm going to try to land right in the middle of that, show you it can be done, show you how easy it is to do. But you can see landing. The big thing about landing is small corrections. You want to have enough maneuverability that you can change your direction. You can see this is a little slow, so I'm going to turn on my RCS. I have plenty of RCS fuel, so I can now rotate my spacecraft. But the big thing is you don't want to make big changes. I'm coming in at 170 meters per second. I'm still accelerating. My height is about 10 kilometers above, so I'm going to start my second burn at this point. Remember, I'm not actually going to see my landing point. I'm not going to see my cluster until this is about 2 to 3K, which is a pain in the ass. But it's just something you got to live with. So, see, my downward velocity is something like 50K. It looks like I'm right on target where I want to be. I should basically not have to make many changes at all to drop right into my cluster of moon shacks. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start a constant thrust. You can see I got plenty of fuel over here. I've got 6K to go in my descent. I'm just going to use some fuel here because normally I wouldn't do this. Normally if I were landing a touchier lander with less margin, I would come in a little faster, but I've got to acquire my target on my way down. And I'm not going to be able to, if I was coming in fast, I wouldn't be able to correct very easily. So I'm going to come in a little slower, and that's going to give me more time to find the base. You can see I'm coming in a little short, so I'm going to thrust a little bit in this. I'm going to put my axis off a little bit, extend that vector back out into the MoonBase area. As I decelerate. Alright, so start looking. Little white speck should appear relatively soon. 3K to go. Coming down at 33 meters per second and slowing a little too much, so I'm going to throttle back just a little bit. Going back over here. That looks pretty good. Should be on top of the MoonBase any second now. Jeb's looking out the window, or mid-top, great name there, dude. Looking out the window, looking for his landing site. Wouldn't it be awesome if there was a damn beacon? There we go. There's the landing site. 1, 2, 3. Should be a fourth anytime. There it is, 4. Alright, so we're off axis a little bit. I'm going to correct for that. A 1.3 kilometer descent. Now I could do this with RCS thrusters, but why? It's so easy to do it this way. Small little changes. Gentle, gentle, gentle. Like I said, my Kerbals don't like to walk, so I don't make them. Alright, kill my sideways velocity. 500K to go. Downward velocity of about probably 20 meters per second. Killing my sideways velocity. That's my main habitat right there. That's the guy I really want to land